Okay, we've got the tip all clean. It's been sanded off. And we've got the club head that's been cleaned out on the hosel, sanded out. We've polished off the club head. So much easier when you have the head off to do the polishing of your club head. Makes a lot of sense. Now over here we've put down 2 pieces of masking tape, and I have a popsicle stick, and I've squeezed out a button of epoxy, the clear, and a button of the black. And what I'm going to add are some shafting beads. This also comes from Golfsmith. Basically these are very, very small beads of glass, and by putting them in your epoxy, it's kind of like putting in little ball bearings. And what they do is they make sure that around the tip of the shaft and in the hosel, you've got epoxy on all edges. In other words, they keep the shaft side or the tip side, the sides of the tip and the sides of the hosel from touching each other. And that allows the epoxy to be all over and all around the tip. That way you're sure you've got a good bond and there's no part where you didn't get the epoxy. So that's the reason for using the shafting beads. Some people say they're not essential, they don't use them at all. That's really a personal choice. I've always used them and never had a problem with a head coming off or getting loose, really. So you take about half of your epoxy and stick it down in the hosel. And when you have about half down in there, then you stick your popsicle stick all the way down and then swirl it around so you get it all inside the hosel, and then scrape off what comes out on the stick. Now we go to take the tip and do the same thing, put epoxy all on the tip. When I said a button, I meant that the epoxy, each one of these parts is about the size of a button when you're making this and you mix it together. You want to get equal amounts of each for the epoxy to cure properly. And then you pretty much scrape all of that off and get it onto your shaft. If you get some of it a little bit high above the hosel area, that's not a problem. You're going to be able to wipe this off. Until it cures, you can still wipe it off. Once it's cured, you can sand it off. If you get it on there and you don't want it there, you can still sand it down. Okay, so now we've got that on there. We've got our little mark. We keep that mark on the top so that we can put them back together. And I remember that I had the head poking this way, so that top hole is there. That's going to go there. And I usually twist this as I put it on. And you want to have a trash can down below or a piece of newspaper or something, because it's going to drip out. It's going to come out of those holes. And by doing this, going back and forth and rubbing around, you're getting it really sealed all in there. And then you always want to have some paper towels close by so that you can wipe off the goo. Try to keep it off your clothes, your body, if you can. Not always the easiest thing in the world to do. Now we're going to put a pin down through the holes, and it's going to go through the tip. Now the only thing that would be different if you were putting on a new shaft that didn't have a hole drilled yet, then you would put this on, you'd get it exactly where you want it in terms of the direction, and you'd let it set for 30 minutes or more. Then you'd drill your hole and put your pin in. But since we've already got a hole, we can go ahead now and put the pin in. So you want to push it on as tight as it'll go. Push your pin down through the hole. You know what I didn't do is polish off the tips, the ends of this pin. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll come right back. Okay? So what I did was polish off and sharpen one end of this so that it'll go down through the hole a little easier. The other end I just made flat so that when I'm driving it, it'll drive down. So now that'll go into there a little bit better. You sometimes have to tap this because the holes are tight usually. Now on this pin I'm using an 1/8 inch aluminum rod. Okay, you could use brass and you can use steel. So any of those three work fine. You kind of twist your club head back and forth until it goes in easily. Now that stopped going in easy, so what I'm going to do is take it out of this. It means I haven't gotten it through in the back. And I look at the side and I can see it's twisted. It's going a little bit that way. So I may need to do a little extra work on getting this to go straight through. Well, actually, you can see this other side, it's coming out just right. So it's right there at the end. What I'm going to do is put it on the edge of my vise here so that when I hit it, I'll have a good foundation for driving it all the way through. Now you can see that the holes were not straight across from each other. So that's something that's always a little tricky. Because this was an old shaft, the hole was in the right place for it to come all the way through. Again, that's a smart idea to have a little point on this so that it will find its way through that. So what I'll do here is just put the edge on the edge of my vise so that I can have good resistance there. And I want it to go so that it's about equal distance on both sides. Now what I can do is sand off each of those and get them down flush. So I'll do that and then I'll come back. Okay, what we did is we used the belt sander, sanded down both sides. You can see that's nice and smooth. This side is nice and smooth. The belt sander with a lightweight belt is excellent for that. Again, we want to wipe off any extra epoxy around the edges. And that looks pretty good. Now we can do some final polishing on this. I often use a strip of polishing cloth that's used for polishing copper pipes. That works well for doing this polishing. And you just get it on both sides and rub back and forth. I've got a piece here, I'll do that and then I'll come back. Okay, this is the sanding tape I'm talking about. You can get this in a plumbing store and just go back and forth like this. And that'll polish the hosel as well as polish the pin. One of the things I like about aluminum is you're going to be able to see this pin always. The same is true with brass. If you use brass, you'll be able to see your pin if you have to replace it again. So you can do it like that side and then turn it over, do the other side. And you can do this all up and down the hosel. It makes for a very nice finish. The polish lines are going in the right direction when you do it this way, and it can make it look really pretty. Okay, so that gets it nice and smooth. It won't catch on your clothes or your hands. And this is a 30-minute epoxy that I've used on this. So the ideal thing now is to put this either in a holder like this or lean it up against something, and that way the epoxy will come down into here and really seal. In case there's any spots in there that it didn't seal, it'll seal in there. We gave it a good wipe, so there's no, but that'll seal up really nicely. So we'll just stand it up like that for about 30 minutes and then it'll be all set.